Starting off the video in the car talk first thing. Here's the PRs that I've been kind of doing. I'm benching more than my deadlift or squat. That's because right now I'm taking it really slow with those, so that way I can build up a more robust foundation technically, like from just doing the skill of deadlifting or squatting, so that way I can have better technique. So that way by the time my technique and overall coordination gets to the point in which my muscles are actually using a weight that's challenging, I will be very bulletproofed, if that makes sense. So I will be much less likely to injure myself again. But feeling good today. Had another bench PR, 250 for 6. Feeling really good, and I'm feeling leaner because today's video is all about how I'm using running for fat loss. Our bodies are really fascinating things and we produce energy in many different ways. So how can you use running as a form of cardio to help yourself burn fat more efficiently? There's some really interesting caveats to this, and I really misunderstood it until I just got this book by Dr. Phil Maffetone, who is kind of like the endurance trainer, endurance coaching Jesus, and this is his Bible, if that makes sense. But really interesting read so far, and I love his approach on his holistic approach to endurance training and just fitness overall, because you have fitness, physical fitness, like can you go run a mile, but then you have health, and like can you run a mile while also being healthy doing so? All of those combined, like how can you do everything well so that way you aren't like a bodybuilder who shows up and they look insane but they're very unhealthy, right? So that's why I'm never really interested in bodybuilding, because it's just not very holistic. It's cool to look good, but also you can not take it to that extreme while still being healthy, and you can have the best of both worlds. So that's what I'm trying to do. This video is all about how to use running as a form of cardio to more efficiently burn fat as fuel. Caveats with that to come, so stay tuned.
Alrighty, welcome back people to another mini doc episode. Now again, my idea with these is that I'm not really trying to just entertain, although I hope there is some level of entertainment to it, but I really just want to document what I'm doing and kind of helping share what I'm learning, so that way not only can I get better at teaching health and fitness, but also if I'm learning something and I can help teach it to other people, hopefully I'm providing some value to you guys as well. So recently what I've been doing is I've been learning from the Jesus of endurance training himself in the Bible of endurance training right here, Dr. Philip Maffetone with the MAF method. And it's interesting, MAF, M-A-F, does not just mean, like, it's not just the beginning of his last name. MAF stands for Maximum Aerobic Fitness. And so today we are talking about aerobic training for fat loss. Running and other forms of cardio is aerobic training, whereas you have resistance training in the gym, that's anaerobic training. And the difference between these two is, are you using oxygen as fuel or are you not using oxygen as fuel? Anaerobic means without oxygen. So when you're in the gym, you don't actually need oxygen to perform a heavy set of bench press, right? You're holding your breath as you're doing it and you get exhausted after like around 1 minute of a really heavy, challenging weight. Aerobic training is when you're doing sustained energy use over a long period of time and you're trying to get efficient at burning energy, small amounts of energy to go a long distance. Now, I think there's a really interesting caveat to the argument, because people say it's just you're burning strictly body fat while you're doing cardio, but this isn't always the case. It's really interesting. Now, as I mentioned before, I do want to lose body fat and get a lower body fat percentage because I know that will make me a faster runner as I'm just carrying less excess body weight. So what I've been doing recently is running 5 miles on the treadmill every day. So it was close to 5 miles done in about an hour. My average pace was around 9 minutes, 30 seconds per mile, and my average heart rate didn't go above 152. But specifics on why that's important will come in another video. The main thing is that I kept intensity very low and added in about 10 minutes of walking after running as well, just to get more time in that lower intensity zone. Now, as crazy interesting as it is, I won't actually be burning body fat while using the treadmill right there, unless I'm doing something else. I can get more efficient as using fat for fuel, but if I want to lose body fat and get a lower body fat percentage, I need to do something else. So let's cover that next. Now, this isn't that far off from what I've done to get like up to like 90% of the results to get where I'm at today over the past 3, 4, 5 years. What I would do whenever I'm trying to lose body fat is just get 10,000 steps in per day, which is roughly about 5 miles. So instead of focusing on the steps, now I'm using running to still get that amount of energy burning going while also building up my aerobic fitness. And here's where the argument of burning body fat for fuel becomes really interesting, because when you're doing aerobic training and your heart rate is low but you're doing some form of activity, You don't necessarily burn only body fat or only carbs or sugar, as carbohydrates are just a sugar. All sugars are carbohydrates, if that makes sense. It's not one or the other, but it's how much more of fat are you burning and how much less of carbs are you burning. So at any given moment, you aren't solely burning carbs and you aren't solely burning fat as energy. But as you build up your aerobic base and you build up your fitness for cardiovascular training, you can get more efficient at more so burning fat as fuel rather than carbs as fuel. So here on page 23 in this book right here, there's a little chart right there if you can see that. And what it outlines, I'll get some B-roll on this right now, but what it says is that the lower your heart rate is, the more efficient you are at burning fat rather than sugar. And so it's a balancing act of being able to build up your base to more efficiently use fat rather than carbs. The higher intensity of training you're doing, so whether that be like anaerobic fitness, which is the most intense in the gym, right? You're using more so sugar as energy. You're still using some fats to sustain yourself, which is bodily functions, but you're using primarily sugar. When you're doing cardio training, you're using primarily fats. The problem is beginners to cardio, they're like, you can't just expect to go into the gym and bench 315, right? Same thing with cardio. You can't just go and do cardio and expect to be really efficient at burning fat right off the first day. Here's this other quote on that same page, just a little blip saying, properly training the aerobic system results in a dramatic increase in fat burning, not only during training, but during racing and all other times of the day and night. The more you develop your aerobic system, the more endurance you'll have. You still use glycose or glycogen to help burn fat. Think of fat as the logs in a fire, a slow long-term energy burn, and sugar as the kindling, quick short-term energy that helps fat burn. So all these fancy arguments put together, pretty interesting, right? But at the end of the day, the only way you do lose body fat, not just burn fat as energy, but the way you lose body fat is if you're in a caloric deficit. So you can get more efficient at using fat for fuel by doing cardio and training cardio effectively at a low heart rate. But you will only lose body fat if you're in a caloric deficit. So this all being said, what Jesus is preaching in his Bible right here, and also my goal of losing body fat, how these come together is I'm thinking in the long term here. If I build up my aerobic fitness and I can get better at doing cardio and primarily being more efficient at burning fat for fuel, I can use cardio as a tool to burn body fat simply because that cardio saves me time on a day-to-day basis rather than just purely effectively only burning body fat while doing cardio. So regardless, like in the past, I've found a lot of success just walking 10,000 steps a day, and that was a way to increase the amount of calories I was burning. But the better I get at cardio, I can do that same energy in less time in a day. So instead of spending 60 minutes to go on a walk, I can spend 25, 30 minutes on a jog and still get the same results. So at the end of the day, walking and jogging both burn calories. But the better I can be at endurance training, the more efficiently I can use endurance training as a skill to save time on a day-to-day basis, but then also as just another resource in my tool bag in order to make fat loss a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, and make myself more successful over the long term. You can also think about it in terms of your metabolism, right? The more muscle you have in your body, the higher your metabolism is. And now hear me out. The higher your metabolism is, the easier it is to stick to a caloric deficit because now you have a higher basal metabolic rate. So it's all these moving variables, but over the long term, as you get more muscle, the easier it is to stick to a caloric deficit. The better you are at endurance training, the higher aerobic base is, the easier it is to burn calories with less intensity. And it's all these things coming together that holistically in the long term, I can lose body fat in a healthier manner so that way I can still achieve a good level of fitness. So can I run a mile, but also be healthy while doing it and be at a lower body fat while doing it. So can I run a mile and then also can I feel good while doing it? And then tying it in with losing body fat, can I look good while doing it, right? That's how this all kind of comes together. So which kind of ties into my whole view of health and fitness. I'll make a longer video about this, but really it's like build a cool physique and then do cool things with it and feel good while doing it. So in the future videos to come, I can talk about the MAF method and how to accurately use a heart rate monitor to train in a lower, like you have a certain threshold, right? Of like, you don't want to train above this heart rate in order to effectively endurance train with the MAF method. And it's run slow, to get faster, right? Which is, who would have thought, it's the most kind of Chad move ever. It's like, you know what, I'm not going to train as hard as possible. I'm actually going to do the opposite and train as slow as possible in order to be faster. And it works. Who would have thought? So stay tuned for that. I hope you learned something. This is kind of just me talking out loud, talking my ideas out loud as I can make sense of them myself. If you're still sticking around, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. And I got a pair of scissors in my hands now. Anyways, leave a comment down below if, like, what's your favorite form of cardio and how have you normally done your own cardio routines? Has it just been, you know, go walk on a treadmill, or have you like accurately tried to get faster at cardio? Are you interested in running? This is what I'm interested. I hope it's bringing some value to you. I hope you're finding some form of entertainment from this. Anyways, this is More Than Running, and you'll catch me in the next one.